there friends, and welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about Suicide Squad again, and some other stuff related to Rocksteady and just Warner Bros. In general. So there was a new article released, and we're going to be going over that today. Now, parts of this article are inaccurate and false. First off, the biggest thing is the fact that it once again mentions the whole $200 million thing. And to be clear, if you weren't aware, Suicide Squad did not lose them $200 million. As a whole, not just including the gaming division or just Suicide Squad, WB made $200 million less than they expected in the first quarter for 2024. And this is primarily due to the fact that, one, last year you had the Hogwarts Legacy release, which did extremely well. And so they were expecting to see similar gains. And obviously part of that is obviously due to Suicide Squad, but that does not mean that they lost $200 million, rather that they made $200 million less than they expected. Now, that being said, that does not mean that Suicide Squad was a success. It really wasn't a success, and we're going to get into that. Essentially, the article kind of goes into some behind-the-scenes stuff, because they talk a bit about the whole developer stuff. Now, if you weren't aware, Jamie Walker and Sefton Hill, who basically were completely behind this game, Rocksteady entirely chose to do this game, not WB. And they decided for it to be multiplayer and for the story to be exactly how it was. Basically, they were not the best leaders for this project. According to actual developers of the games, they just didn't do a great job with them not approving stuff for months and making stuff take much longer than it should have, as well as just a lot of other issues. And essentially, they left the game basically at the very end of production to start a new adventure. But it's pretty clear that they decided that they made mistakes with this game and how it was done, and essentially left it behind to not get any of the criticism. At least from my opinion, that's just, we don't actually know exactly why they chose to leave, but it's pretty clear for me at least. But the game itself also had other issues with the team not knowing how to do a live service game as much, because they've not done one before. Because they've done Arkham games. And with this game, they struggled specifically with trying to make stuff able to be done multiple times while also not being repetitive, which is one of the game's actual complaints that are reasonable, is that the game is repetitive, because there is a lot of repetitiveness with the game. And the game now is kind of not in a great position, which we're going to get into later. But they also specifically, apparently, devs wanted to have more hints of the League's return and stuff so that people wouldn't be upset, and the two leads specifically did not want that, which is really odd, because that would have really helped with a lot of the complaints for the game, the fact that the League is coming back. The big thing from this article isn't all of this, it's what's at the very end of the article, because apparently many of the Rocksteady employees are now helping to develop a director's cut of the Hogwarts Legacy game, which obviously was a huge success, so they're obviously trying to profit more on that. And they are also looking to pitch a new single-player game. Now, the question is, what does this mean for the Suicide Squad game? Well, first off, it's not all doom and gloom, because companies are always looking for their next project. It's not a bad thing that they're looking for the next game. Them working on another game does not mean that this game is over, but this game is over. Be clear, it is not over yet, but essentially what's going to happen is that we're going to finish out the storyline of Brainiac, but we're not going to go into any of the other stuff that they wanted to do, because the game wasn't a success. The game is not profiting right now. There aren't new players coming into the game. A lot of players that did play the game have left because there just hasn't been hardly any new content, and the game is going to finish out with either Season 4 or Season 5. It's looking likely that they might shorten it to Season 4 and push out some of the stuff that was for Season 5 in Season 4 to do it as quickly as possible so that they can move on. Now, that won't be till the end of this year, early next year. But either way, Season 4 or 5 will be the final season for the game. And it will be the end of the game, because they aren't doing anymore. Now, what about this next game? What is this? Well, I would say that it's most likely a DC property, but that's not 100%. They did actually have another game they were working on prior to Suicide Squad that was not a DC game, but it's likely that they will probably do another DC game. The game itself isn't as bad as people say. No. The game itself does have a lot of issues, though. I think that if they actually were willing to put in the resources to kind of fix some of the issues with the game, such as the end game and just the repetitive nature of the end game with new missions, new enemies, and stuff like that, that the game could actually really be really good. But even then, I don't think that it would make a comeback just because there is such a negative perception of the game in general, which is partially due to, you know, the whole anti-woke stuff, because some people don't like it when there's not just only white people in games and stuff, and people get really mad whenever there's not just that. And there's very few exceptions to that, sadly, which is just kind of annoying. I mean, obviously that's not the whole issue with the game, and obviously that's not all of the complaints for the game, but that is a large amount of it. And when I say a large amount, that doesn't mean I'm even saying it's a majority. I'm just saying it is a large amount of it, because there is a large amount of it. I don't know what WB was necessarily thinking, because they were thinking that this game was going to do as good as Hogwarts Legacy. And I don't know why WB thinks that Suicide Squad is such a big deal, because Suicide Squad isn't a big deal, even in the comics. Not sure why they really want to do Suicide Squad stuff so much. They've done 2 films and a game now, and Suicide Squad just isn't the most popular property even with DC fans, let alone with the general public in general. And even though as a DC fan, I love the game, I really enjoy the game. I mean, I have my own issues with it, and I do think that there are some things that need to be fixed, and hopefully they are. But I don't know why they would ever have thought that that would do as good as Hogwarts, especially because there are a ton of Harry Potter fans. And the thing is, yes, there are a ton of DC fans, but the DCEU really hurt the whole DC brand as a whole. It really hurt the DC brand as a whole. And even then, the people that are DC diehard fans weren't necessarily wanting a Suicide Squad game. Now, that doesn't make the game bad at all, but it also is why it didn't do as good as it should have. And while it is definitely one of the better looter shooters, in my opinion, just because of the way they have that stuff set up, the issue of repetitiveness is a really big thing that needs to be fixed for future updates if they were to ever make this game a big hit, which it's not going to be a big hit. I think everyone knows that by now, including WB and Rocksteady, that this game isn't going to be a success, even if they put in a lot of money to try and fix it up a bit. But yeah, basically, the game didn't do great. They're going to finish off the main storyline and not continue with additional storylines. So we're going to still be getting... we're still going to be getting all of the stuff that we know about from leaks and teases, with the League returning and the characters, but we're not going to be getting any additional stuff. It's sad, but I mean, I feel like we kind of already knew most of this stuff. This isn't a huge deal. I wouldn't be surprised if the next project is another Arkham Universe DC game, or just a DC game in general. But it's possible that it could be some other game that's unrelated to DC. It could be another WB property. It could be something unrelated to WB. It could be original. Anyways, that's going to be it for the video. If you did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe, etc. And I will see you guys all next time.